Okay, we are running a bit behind schedule, so I will try to make my presentation brief. So the reason why I suggested this talk is that MySQL 8.0 now has introduced roles. Actually, they have had roles for a while now in 8.0. And I think it's a good time to actually compare the two, see how they're different. So who here knew about roles before having them read about it here first? Okay, so everybody else did not know about roles at all. Okay. So a bit about myself. I am a software developer for the MariaDB Foundation, and one of my first contributions to MariaDB was the roles feature back in 2013. And we released it in 10.0, which is now an end-of-life release. But we basically have roles for a long time now. Compared to Postgres, we were far behind. Postgres first had roles in 2005. I'm not quite sure when the SQL standard defined the exact roles, but it seems that Postgres is following most of the syntax there. We added roles in 10.0 2013. We tried to follow the SQL standard as much as possible. And MySQL also added them in 2016. And most of the implementations are compatible, but MySQL has a couple of extensions that we need to be careful of. Yes?
Was any customer asking for this feature, or did you just want to fulfill the standard?
This was a Google Summer of Code project back in 2013. Maybe Sergey can say where it started from.
I would say that MySQL was asking a few feature requests from users with that roles. And it seemed like a recently isolated project.
From my experience, customers don't explicitly ask about roles, but they ask about how to solve business problem which roles perfectly fit. Like having a group of users give up with the privilege ones and
Okay, so I'm going to go through a basic use case, and we'll see which ones might be useful for a generic customer. So in essence, roles are kind of like a group in a Unix environment. They can own objects or have access to database objects, be it tables, databases, procedures, functions. They can also gain privilege to modify certain aspects of the server, such as creating or dropping users. And with the caveat that this is not true for all databases, you cannot log in with a role. MySQL does allow you to log in with a role. And the superpower of roles is that they can inherit from other roles. So you can make a very nice role hierarchy, and you only grant users the specific roles that they need. So in essence, they simplify privilege granting and revoking. And instead of having to manage a bunch of users to make sure they have the same privilege all the time, all you have to do is update the role that was granted to all of them. Because roles can be activated and deactivated during a session, it's very easy to implement the least privilege principle, in that you're not running around as root, touching every file in the system. From a practical perspective, there's no performance penalty, or very, very little. I'm going to go into details on this, both for MariaDB and MySQL, why this is the case. And because we have a feature called default role, you can have legacy applications, which you can no longer control, also work just as well with a new server with roles, because you can just enable roles on connection. So a basic use case, there's a very, very simplified data warehouse with just one table of transactions, and we have a couple of users. We have a user that deals with reporting, so only selecting stuff in the database. I'm going to call her Rachel. We have another script that always puts data into the database, so an import robot. We have a developer, Dave, and our admin, Alex. I'm going to grant the appropriate privileges to everybody. So report gets select, import gets insert, development gets all the rights for the data warehouse database as well as the staging one. And admin on top of that gets create user privileges on the server. And he's able to grant other users the ability to create other users. Notice the bottom 4 lines here. This is the syntax for granting roles to users. So instead of granting to some user with an on clause, you don't have it. You just have a role name and the user, or the username, or the role name and the other role name. And for those of you who are much more visually inclined, this is the layout of our grants. So we have 4 databases on top. The MySQL one is the metadata database. It's not the server name, it's just a database name. We have the 4 roles: report, import, dev, and admin, and our users at the bottom. Yes?
You should classify the MySQL database with lowercase to be clear.
Yes, that would be clever. The arrows represent rights on those objects. So report has select privilege on data warehouse, import as well, dev and admin have everything. What I don't like about this is there's lots of redundancy. I need to define the same privileges for dev and admin, and just one special extra privilege for the admin. And we can do better than this, because, like I've said, we can create role hierarchies. We can eliminate duplicate grants, and we do this because roles propagate privileges. Notice here, I've highlighted in red the duplicate grants for the admin role. We can substitute those by granting development to admin. So now we only have to maintain development for the basic insert, update, delete, draw table privileges, and admin only has to specifically specify create user. So instead of this, with these 2 extra arrows here, we move it from admin. Admin gets all the rights that dev has, plus some extra ones. Make sense? All right. A few caveats with role hierarchies. If you have a cycle, it basically means that everybody in the cycle gets all the privileges of everybody else, because you could make a loop around and gather all the privileges. MariaDB specifically disallows cycles. I don't recall if the standard enforced that or not. It just didn't make sense for us to allow hierarchies and then basically collapse them with a cycle enabled. So if you do have a cycle defined in your MySQL database, the way we store the role graph, we will just ignore the last edge that creates a cycle. If you try to create the last edge with the grant role, we will return an error. MySQL will allow it, but that means that you might end up giving rights to roles that you do not expect to give rights to. So you need to be very careful here. And there is no way to disallow this sort of behavior in MySQL.
Second question.
Yes.
Just check what you asked. So it sounds that no cycles for all authorizations are allowed.
Okay, so we follow standard in this case. Now, you might be a bit worried that supporting this sort of hierarchy might have a performance penalty. And we took care not to have to go through the full chain of roles to get all the privileges. The moment we encounter this sort of chain, we cache the privileges till we get to the topmost role. Our strategy is different compared to MySQL, but in the end it leads to the same result. So we compute them whenever you do a grant. Actually, I think. Okay, so next slide is going to go into more details. So we compute effective privileges when we load the graph from disk. and we store it in memory, whilst MySQL does not compute the effective privileges until they are needed once. And then they are stored in a hash table with the key is the user that has those roles and the ones that are active. So if something were to change, this hash gets invalidated and you would have to pay this penalty again. But it's not, it should mostly mean that the first check for MySQL is going to be slower, but the other ones are going to be just as fast as MariaDB. And they will have no performance penalty during grants, although having a slow grant statement, regardless of how slow it is, it's an infrequent operation most of the time, so it's not something that you're going to be worried about. So in the end, I think both implementations are good enough to be used in production, although I kind of prefer ours because it never introduces a performance penalty during select.
What if you have thousands of tables and columns? You can't have column grants.
You can have column grants, yes.
But if you have, let's say, 10 million grants for a user, of course that has to be a penalty. Because you have to check it.
You have to check it anyway, but I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, but each check has a performance implication. Checks are not free, especially even if you go to a hash or something. How do you store the hash? How do you store the hash?
Okay, so the performance penalty that roles incur is one extra check. Like it's this, it's two times the cost for checks. And it's the same for both MariaDB and MySQL. And so let's talk about the least privilege principle. And here's an interesting scenario. So Dave, the developer, has a tricky bug to debug. He needs a clone of some tables to investigate, so he gets to work. He sets his role to data warehouse development. He creates his copy of his table and starts work. After a long day, he's very tired and he finally finishes. He wants to clean up. So he tries to clean up. But he did it on the wrong database. Because he did have the rights to drop tables from the production database, because that's what the role gave him. So all this could have been avoided because you could split these privileges up into safe and dangerous ones. Like I said, there's no need to run around as root all the time. You just enable rights when you're really, really certain you need to do something on those production databases. And this sort of thing would not be possible unless you were to change users so that you get a different set of privileges. But you can do this with roles. One other difference between MySQL and MariaDB is that MySQL allows enabling multiple roles. This does provide some strange semantics. We can obtain the same result by creating an extra role that covers all the previous ones. So if you just...
This also directly contradicts the standard, and the standard has a concept of current role. So you can create for a procedure defined current role. How this will work if you have multiple roles at once, that's completely unclear.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how they... I didn't test that, I wanted to, but I didn't get enough time to do that. But their current role is basically a string.
Yeah, I thought they don't allow defined current role. Last time I checked, I think. I'm not sure.
For stored procedures, probably, yeah. Well, other than that, there's no really too different of a behavior. What I didn't mention it here, but actually, so MySQL also implements mandatory roles, which are roles that are always active. An easy way to have a blanket grant for all users all the time. Perhaps that's useful. It's not in the standard, so I don't have any more information there. But it is something that MySQL supports. And the standard also specifies a couple of information schema tables. we have the first two, so enabled roles and applicable roles. Enabled roles, MySQL implements them a bit differently, and it's not according to standard. So if you enable 10 roles in MySQL, you only get those 10 roles. But the standard says you should also list the roles that were granted to those roles. And MySQL does not do that. We only allow one role to be enabled according to standard, but we will also print the roles that were granted to that role. Applicable roles have the same behavior. It's the roles that you could enable. And MySQL 8.0.19 very recently added these extra ones for easier introspection to what the user can do with what roles.
And they are fully standard and we don't have them.
Yes, this is according to standard. Actually, they have modified them slightly. They have extra columns, for example. Well, applicable roles is mandatory, which is not in the standard.
But we don't have
So the last ones we could also add, since it's part of the standard. So overall comparison, both databases do allow role-based access control, no problem. From the practical perspective, they should be pretty much compatible as long as you stay away from non-standard extensions. And other than that, make sure that you disallow logging in as a role in MySQL if you want to disallow that. And well, pretty much I think they are at this point feature complete, more or less. Right. So I will not be here if we run sponsors one way or another. So this is their slide, thanking them for that.